Welcome to Motorcycle Hang Time with Chris Klotz, attorney at Stevenson and Klotz Injury Lawyers. We invite you to hang with us as we talk about the local motorcycle scene, safety issues, and motorcycle law. And now, here's your fellow motorcycle rider and enthusiast and host.
Hey there, everybody. This is Chris Klotz with Motorcycle Hang Time. And today we have Dr. Jessica Kelly with us, who is from Health Source Clinics. And welcome, Dr. Kelly. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, so glad that you're here. So I want to just take a minute for you to just introduce yourself and tell us what you do and just a little bit about you.
Well, like you said, I'm Dr. Kelly. I work for Health Source Chiropractic. So we have a couple clinics in the area, and I'm at the Pensacola office. So I've been in the Pensacola area for a while, graduated from undergrad here, went to Palmer Chiropractic in Palmer, Florida, and then I just love the Pensacola area, so came back here to practice.
Right on. And just a little bit about y'all's clinics. Do I recall that y'all have, is it 3 clinics that are in the Pensacola area?
Yes, currently. Yep.
Yeah, and you are at the one that's near Apple Market on Scenic, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a beautiful office. Y'all have been open, over there, like for 4 years or so now, right? 3 or 4 years?
Close to it. I think we're going on to our 3rd anniversary.
Oh, that's really awesome. So this show is a lot about motorcycles and motorcycle safety. And I know that you see patients who are injured in all kinds of moving vehicle accidents, cars, trucks, motorcycles. And for people out there that are not really familiar with chiropractic care, can you just tell us a little bit about, what chiropractic care is and how that differs from going to the hospital and getting medical care there? What do chiropractors do that's a little bit different than everybody else?
Yeah. So whenever you go to the hospital, they do an exam on you. They'll usually do a series of tests or x-rays, CT scans, and then they give you some medication to help kind of calm things down. At that point, coming to see a chiropractor, we do an exam, we do x-rays as well to make sure there weren't any, injuries like fractures or anything like that. But then we put you on a treatment plan to help actually get you better. So a lot of times in accidents, you'll see that somebody has, some sprain and strains with their ligaments or muscles. And so we want to make sure that we're getting you back to where those ligaments and muscles are stable again. So working on that. We also do a lot of decompression. So say the accident caused any disc herniation, we do have equipment to help with that. And then we have another tool that helps with inflammation as well. So we're really just trying to get you back on track to doing the things that you love to do, but also keeping you better long term. Right.
And so fortunately or unfortunately, I have had experienced all of those modes of treatment. And I have found for me that those modalities of treatment have been really, really helpful to me in recovery from back injuries that I've had or hurting my back or pulling my back or whatever. Fortunately, I've never been in a significant accident where I've had to have, extended care like that. But everybody kind of, will pull their back every once in a while. And walk me through those different treatments. I know when people think about chiropractors, obviously the first thing they think of is the adjustments. And what is that exactly? What is the adjustment? People will say, oh, that's when my back gets cracked. But really, what's going on with that process? And talk to me about how that helps you.
Yeah. So whenever we're, going to adjust somebody, I'm looking to see if there's any joints that just aren't moving as well as the others around it. And so you're just adjusting that fixation. Sometimes those fixations can cause nervous interference and those type of things. So you're also trying to adjust that. The popping sound that you hear is actually just an audible release of gas that's within the joints. So it's kind of like the cherry on top whenever you hear that. So we're really just looking for those fixated joints between the pelvis and all the way up the spine.
And I know that you use different techniques for the different parts of the neck or upper or middle or lower back. Is there a particular adjustment that you like to do more than others? Do you like doing necks or backs, or what do you like to do?
Yeah, everybody prefers to be adjusted a certain way. Some things work better than others on different types of people. We do one adjustment where I have a person standing against the door to adjust their mid-back. And that one, I think because I'm a smaller person and I can adjust big guys that way, they're like, whoa, they're really surprised by it. So that's always a fun one after I do that.
Oh, that's awesome. And so I heard you say that y'all also do some decompression, and I've actually had that before, and it's really helpful. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about what the decompression looks like and what that can do for somebody?
Yeah. So sometimes people have a disc herniation or disc bulges, and it's basically where there's like you've got your vertebral bodies and a little disc in between it. That's the cushion of your spine. And if that gets compressed, there's a jelly-like material that can kind of go out, and that can hit a nerve root. It can hit back into the spinal cord. And so decompression is going to help bring that jelly-like material back inside. It also has more of a pumping motion, so it's going to help hydrate those discs again to help that you don't have, injuries down the road because of it. The decompression itself, there's straps that go around. If you're doing it for your low back, there's some straps that'll go around your waist, and it'll just help stretch the low back. You shouldn't have any pain while you're there. You should feel just a little bit of a stretch. It's usually pretty comfortable. For the neck, we have a machine that kind of just hugs right behind your ears and then helps stretch your neck. So a lot of people ask us if they're going to get taller because of it, because they're just laying on the table feeling like they're getting a good stretch. So good.
Yeah, I think I've actually fallen asleep while that's going on before because it really feels really, really good.
Yeah.
So I'm curious just to talk about anatomy a little bit. So within the disc space, you're describing a jelly that's in the disc space. Is that something that replenishes itself?
So you have like the disc itself, the outer materials, they're annular fibers, and so they help protect that jelly-like material. But whenever those fibers get compressed more, the nucleus pulposus is what's on the inside, that can get herniated out. And so we're trying to bring that material back in. That pumping motion that decompression does, it helps hydrate it again. And that's the only way to get that, because it's more of like a water-based material. And so the pumping motion is going to increase the hydration there.
Gotcha. And you've got that all the way from the base of your skull all the way down to your tailbone and in the disc spaces. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about, again, I know y'all see all kinds of moving vehicle accident type of injuries. Is there something, if somebody comes to you and they said, I've had a motorcycle injury, what does the process look like, just so people aren't scared when they come, or everybody gets nervous when they go see the doctor? Well, not most everybody does, for the first time. And what should somebody expect? Like, say somebody's had an accident, they've got some back or neck pain. What does it look like when they come to see you guys, and what will the process be?
Yeah. So whenever we schedule them for an appointment, we go through and we have you fill out the stuff from the accident. So I want to see, like, if you were bracing during the accident, I want to see if you hit your head on anything, or if you were hit from behind or hit from the side. So those details matter as far as like different injuries that you could sustain from those different types of accidents. So we do a very thorough exam, checking out everything that could have been injured from it. We check the spine, but we can check everything from your shoulders, wrists, knees, all those things can be injured as well. So we check all of that. We do x-rays just to make sure that there weren't any fractures, that you're safe to adjust. We're also trying to determine at that point, like, are you a good chiropractic candidate? Or if you're somebody that needs to be referred out, for an MRI or to pain management or different things. So we're also making sure that you're okay to treat.
Gotcha. And when you say they might not be a good chiropractic candidate, what does that kind of look like if you see somebody that's got some prior significant injuries or maybe plates or something? Or is that what you're talking about? Or what do you mean?
So if you have fusions in your back, you're okay to treat. I just don't adjust those areas. We adjust around them. But from an accident standpoint, if that part is fused in your spine, then the areas above and below it are probably going to have more instability or injury just because one part of your spine was stuck. So it's a good thing to assess. I mean, if somebody came in and for some reason they had a fracture in their neck, then that's not somebody that I'm going to treat. We'll definitely refer out for that. I've had some people that, they've got numbness and tingling that is, indicating that they have some spinal cord compression. And so in that instance, I would send to, an ER and then kind of get further imaging to make sure that they would be, safe to adjust.
Gotcha. And something interesting that you said, most people think of chiropractic treatment as something that is confined to the neck or spine, but I know that your practice treats all parts of the body with joints. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit, because I don't think that And a lot of people know that. I mean, I know that you can address wrists and elbows and shoulders and knees and ankles. Talk to me a little bit about that. What all parts of the body do you do, and what other things can you treat?
Yeah, I mean, we have a pretty specific machine that is shockwave therapy. So that over normal tissue, you don't feel anything. But once you get over damaged tissue, inflammation, anything like that, the machine actually detects it and can help heal those tissues. So with that machine, we can treat anything from TMJ all the way down to the bottom of your feet for plantar fasciitis. So that is really unique with us, that we use for like sports injuries or motor vehicle accidents, all of those things. So, I mean, we see a lot of shoulders. So if somebody's shoulder is injured, we're able to treat around the shoulder, those muscles, tendons, and all of that. And then we're really big with rehab. So we can also rehab those areas.
And so I know that y'all have a rehab facility in the Scenic Avenue. I think y'all have one up on 9 Mile too. Tell me a little bit about that. What does that look like? What happens when you're doing rehab with people once they've been adjusted or maybe decompressed?
Yeah. So rehab is, something that is very important to us. So Health Source as a whole, they're usually chiropractic based and then have progressive rehab as well. So if you any like Health Source around will have that. And then they can have decompression and other therapies as well. But all of ours will have rehab. It's really good to make sure that your spine is stable. So you don't bend over to go pick up something and then your back goes out, or you're lifting something and your back goes out. So we work on those deep intrinsic muscles of your spine to help stabilize, especially after an accident when those are injured. We also do a lot of mobility. So you want to make sure there's some areas in your spine that should be more mobile, like your mid-back. You feel really stuck there. So we work on different stretches, foam rolling, all of that stuff. I'm really big into corrective care. So I look at x-rays. I look to see if somebody could have had like a loss of the curve that could have been caused from an accident. And we can also address those things. So we work on, changing the muscles and the ligaments to get your neck going back more towards the ideal curve so that you don't have increased degeneration due to that accident or just other injuries.
Gotcha. I know that you're very into fitness, and I know that you're very active in the health community as far as taking care of yourself. And what I have found, just as a now middle-aged guy who's in his mid-50s, that I've found that, it's become much more important for me at my age to try to stay flexible and also to keep some of my core strength up. And when I do that, I find that my back health stays better. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about that for people who are middle-aged riders? I ride motorcycles, and I know that, a lot of the people that I see in the community are around my age, and everybody's always got like something going on with their back. How can the muscle tone and also the flexibility help you with prevention of back injuries?
So if your low back isn't stable, then it's going to come out of alignment more often. You're going to have more injuries. You're going to feel like you're hurting and aching and all of that. You'll go ride and you'll get off and you're like, gosh, my low back's tight. There's different things. So making sure that your core is strong and stable is important. If you get adjusted, it's going to help hold those adjustments longer. The mobility, if your spine isn't moving well, then it's going to degenerate faster. And so we want to make sure that you're able to move your body through the ranges of motion that it's supposed to go through. So a lot of like mobility in the mid-back when you're leaning forward on the motorcycle. If you're feeling really tight and stuck with that, that's going to be an uncomfortable ride. So making sure that you're, either foam rolling or doing a couple stretches before you get on the bike, that can help as well. And just movement is good for their body. I tell my patients, I'm like, if you're hurting, get up and move. Just walk around, do some light stretches. When you sit there and you lay down all day because you're hurting, then the inflammation in your body tends to get all gummy. And so you go to stand up and you're more stiff, and it takes a while to stand up straighter. So if you can just try to move a little bit, then it's a lot better for your body.
Yeah, and I know that as we get older, it becomes even more important to stay flexible and keep your core strength. And something that you said, if your back is unstable, I know what that means, but maybe some of the audience doesn't know what that means. Is that kind of related to strength? Or just describe that a little bit for us.
Strength and core. So, the stuff that we work out in our rehab is those deeper intrinsic muscles. So I'm not having a bunch of people deadlifting or doing these heavy movements. It's just small movements to make sure that your spine is stable, working on those muscles that help protect you that when you are moving things. So whenever you're doing something like heavy lifting, bracing is good. And like if somebody's going to punch you in the stomach and you brace your stomach, that's what you want to do before you lift something heavy. So those
I
are...
try to avoid getting punched in the stomach whenever possible.
But that's the type of bracing. And if you feel like you can't do that for like a couple seconds, then that could show that you're weaker there. So you're going to work on those stabilizing muscles and work on your core. Sit-ups, that's not the thing to, get a strong core. It's more of longer holds like planking and dead bugs, stuff like that. Other exercises that work on like fatiguing the low back and then holding under stability.
Right. So that's very interesting because I think most people that just have like very basic knowledge would think, oh, I'll do a bunch of sit-ups and then I'll be good to go. But what I'm hearing you say is that there are exercises that are even better in addition to sit-ups and maybe just doing only sit-ups by themselves. And can you just walk me through? I know what those are just because I've done them before, but tell the audience what is a dead bug or what is planking?
Yeah. So planking, you would be like on your forearms and have you on your toes and your forearms and just holding in that position, contracting your stomach, like making sure that if I was going to come punch you in the stomach, I couldn't do it. You're bracing for that. You're blocking for that. And then trying to build that up, I would try to do, 15 seconds, see how you feel, up to 30 seconds, and try to get to a minute. That's a really good exercise to work on your stability. Dead bugs are kind of the opposite. You lay on your back and you're pushing your low back down into the ground. It's kind of hard to explain without a visual of a dead bug. There's a lot of brain into that because you're trying to do opposite arm, opposite leg with that, but that's a very good one as well. I do those every day.
That's awesome. There are almost 9 million motorcycles registered in the United States, and there are almost 5,000 motorcycle fatalities a year. That's almost 14 a day. Motorists don't do a good job looking out for motorcycles, and neither do insurance companies. Hi, I'm Chris Klotz, and as a writer and an attorney, I know that insurance companies treat motorcycle cases differently. If you've been injured in a motorcycle accident, bring your case to me to review. Let me take my writing experience and my knowledge of how to deal with insurance companies to get you the compensation that you deserve. The call and the advice during the call are free. Stevenson and Klotz Injury Lawyers, bring it. Well, so we got about 10 minutes or so left. And the fun part of our series is getting to know the people that have come on as guests. And so I'm just I'm always very curious to know people's paths of how they got to where they are. And I know that you went to school here and then you went to chiropractic school. What was your process of deciding, your career path and what drew you to what you do and just how'd you get to where you are?
Yeah. So I grew up in Pensacola, went to the University of West Florida. And after school, I was like, I want to go PT school or something else. I didn't know. I asked my advisor what I could do with my 4-year degree in exercise science. And she was like, you could be a yoga instructor. You could manage a gym. And they weren't things that really stuck with me or resonated with what I wanted to do. I applied to PT school. I was waitlisted, but it was all the way in California. I was like, whoa, that's far. So I worked for, a psychiatrist actually right out of school. And then I met a friend that worked for Health Source doing rehab for them. And she was like, come work for us and do rehab until you go to PT school. So I was like, okay. And when I came, actually, let me take a step back. Before I did that, I actually was in an accident and went to a chiropractor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can you tell, not to get into too much detail, but I mean, what kind of accident did you have and what was your recovery process like? Was it a back injury?
It was more my neck. I was at a red light on Davis Highway and somebody just didn't stop and hit me probably going 50 miles per hour.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And I was actually on my way to the chiropractor because I was experiencing sciatica from sitting in a desk every single day. It was kind of interesting that I was on my way there. But so I was going to them, and I really did not like going to the chiropractor.
Why do you think that was? Just from like growing up? Because I can tell you, and I'll speak from my experience, my mom and dad never went to the chiropractor until they probably got into their 60s or 70s, and now they are completely sold on chiropractic care. But I think it was a lack of familiarity for them, because they had only been raised going to traditional medicine and they, didn't know that much about, chiropractic care. And so what was it for you that you were, at first reluctant?
Yeah, I was like, one, I felt like it hurt. Everything I was doing, like, especially after the accident, I was like, this hurts. I really didn't feel that great after the adjustment. And, sometimes that actually happens after an accident. And so just sometimes hearing, like, from the chiropractor, if he would have just told me, hey, these first couple of weeks might be a little bit uncomfortable. You were in a major accident. Your muscles are going to be tight and sore. And so we just got to work through this. I probably would have had a better understanding. They didn't do any rehab, and I didn't have any x-rays. And so now looking back, to me, I was like, gosh, like, I don't want to see anybody unless I have x-rays of them, especially after an accident. And he just adjusted me and went into his office and closed the door. And I was like, my friend was going to chiropractic school. He asked me to go with him. And I was like, no, I'm not going to chiropractic school. I don't even like going to the chiropractor. I don't want to go. And so then, fast forward a couple months later, I started working for Health Source doing rehab for them. And it was probably within my first month, I applied for chiropractic school. It was really just seeing that there's a difference. And, the combination of rehab with the adjustments just make a huge difference. I felt like we were helping so many people. We were able to help, disc patients. We were able to help like CrossFit athletes or just athletes in general, or anybody with, if they have like shoulder, knee, all of those problems. And so we just could help so many different kinds of people with different things. And I could see that they were getting better. I saw the docs being active in the rehab area and in and out of the rooms. And that I just, every doctor is different. Everybody practices different, and your own beliefs and what you think is best for your patient. And so I knew that I just wanted to have that combination of rehab and chiropractic. And so, the owner, Dr. Jason, was not happy that after a month I was like, I'm going to chiropractic school. But
that's funny.
I would say it worked out for him because I came back 3 years later and I have been with him ever since.
That's awesome. And Dr. Jason is awesome too. That's kind of a cool metamorphosis from getting to know it through being in the, in the PT side and then going to school. So chiropractic school is how long? 3 years?
It's 3.5. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he kind of saved a place for you when you came back.
Yeah. I mean, I tried to fight it. I was like, maybe that's the easy place to go back to. I'll stay in South Florida. And then I was like, no. It was not an easy transition. I mean, Health Source does a lot of training with their dogs, especially like coming out of school. We want to make sure that we're providing the best care for our patients and diagnosing them and referring them when they need to. So it was definitely a challenge, but it's been, amazing to help so many people.
That's really cool. And so I know that you have different staff people. And so there are the doctors, which is you guys, the providers. And then you have people who are providing rehab, or is it accurate to say physical therapy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And so you got therapists. And then I know that you have people that operate the decompression machine. And then the machine, what is the name of the machine that you were talking about that can target the individual areas where it detects some type of problem?
Yeah, it's PA-wave, so it's focused shockwave therapy.
Focused shockwave. And so y'all actually have a pretty big staff at your clinic, don't you?
We do. We have a little bit more in this office because we have admin and billing and all of that here as well. But yeah, we've got a big team. We love it.
That's great. It's really interesting because with Eric and I building our practice pretty much from scratch and you guys building y'all's practice, it's really interesting to see, your experience that you had with your first chiropractor, while he may have been doing a good job, there was not very good like customer care or information. And I think a lot of times that's where professionals can always do better, is give more information to the patient or client instead of just walking in and walking out and treating. And I know that's something that you guys try to do really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, explaining helps a lot, because people, they may not know that, them being really sore, they might think it's a bad thing, or that they're getting worse, where we're just working through things. We're working on muscles and ligaments and things that were injured. And so there is you could feel really good and then have a bad day. And then, so our goal is to make it to where you're having more good days and get you to where those are holding and more like maintenance. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so maintenance, that's a really interesting issue, because I know that you see different kind of patients. You have patients that are acute patients where they've got an injury from an accident. I know that y'all see athlete patients who are there because they may have some sports-related soreness or sports-related injury, and then you also have some maintenance patients. Can you just talk to me a little bit about the difference between those three types of treatment?
Whenever somebody comes in, we do the same exam with everybody as far as just our thoroughness to see, and then we're determining, is this patient, if they're coming in with an injury, then they're going to be an active acute patient. If it's somebody that they've been on maintenance somewhere else and they just moved to the area, I still do the same exam to make sure that I feel like they're at maintenance and that there's not anything that we can work on. So it's really, just determining where they are at that point. With maintenance, that could be different for everybody. I personally, I do CrossFit. I try to work out 5 to 6 days a week. And so I'm putting a lot of stress on my body. And also I have a very strenuous job, so that's a lot of stress as well. And so I get adjusted about once a week, and then most of my patients will get adjusted if they're on maintenance anywhere from twice a month to once a month.
Gotcha. So we're getting close to our time, but I can't leave without at least asking. I know that you don't ride, which is totally cool, but I know that you had somebody in your family that was a rider for a while. Did you have you had a family member that rides motorcycles?
Yes, my dad did.
Or rode motorcycles?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So you at least grew up a little bit around motorcycles, and you're familiar with the biker community maybe a little bit. Do you ever get out to any bike events or anything? Or I know you stay busy, so
yeah,
especially if you're working out 5 to 6 times a week.
Yeah, I try. So my chiropractic school was in Palmer, Florida, which is right outside of Daytona Beach. So,
which is happening right now.
Yeah, so I
Bike week.
A lot of bike weeks, a lot of Oktoberfest, and so there was always fun events to go to. It was definitely a fun week. They do a lot of crazy things that, at the different bars and stuff they're very geared towards it. So yeah, that was always fun. I had a lot of friends in school too that rode. And so I would talk a lot to them about, the safety of riding and those different things. And we kind of discussed before that, it's not always one, as a rider, you want to be safe, but it's usually the people around you that you've got to look out more for. So he did talk to me about different things as far as when you're coming up to a red light, how he would go more to the side of a car instead of directly behind them. So if somebody was to hit them or different things. So now I see when motorcycles are doing certain things, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. They're actually being safe. They're working for themselves. So
right on. Well, Dr. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us today. This is Chris Klotz with Motorcycle Hang Time Podcast with the Stevenson and Klotz Injury Firm here in Pensacola. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time. I know you got to go get back out there, and you probably got patients that are waiting for you. So thank you very much for your time and visiting with us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Motorcycle Hang Time with Chris Klotz. Go to StevensonKlotz.com to get more information about motorcycle safety issues and motorcycle law. Please leave us a rating and a review whenever you listen to your podcast. We invite you to spend time with us on our next episode.